Hi, welcome to the Worthy Parent, our 12-month curriculum that is presented module by module, one module per month. We believe in taking it slow in this community. We believe in integrating and embodying content, not just consuming it. And so, with the worthy parent, as we also do with the worthy relationships and with the worthy self, and also in worthy remembrance, we present one module per month, one section each week, so that you can really sit with this content, you can really personalize it, you can really examine it and see how it aligns with what you are discovering about yourself, in this case, as a parent. And so I'm really excited, really excited about. I'm excited about everything in the Worthy Sanctuary, to be perfectly honest with you. But this segment on worthy parenting holds a special place in my heart, because what I know for sure is that childhood matters. Childhood matters. Who we are in our childhood, who we are told that we are in our childhood, it informs who we become as adults. It informs whether we have a childhood that feels like it was steeped in worthiness or unworthiness. And so the worthy parent is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm so glad that you are here. My name is Michelle Hollinger. I am the founder and the creator of the Worthiness Sanctuary and all its different components. I'm the founder and creator of the Worthy Parent. And so here we are now in module one, and this module is entitled Parenting from Presence, Not Perfection. And so let's get into the first week one of module one, and we'll do a review of our learning objectives, which are to redefine what it means to be a quote good parent, to understand how internal state affects the parenting experience. We'll begin noticing parenting triggers without self blame, and we'll learn the difference between reacting and responding, and ultimately establish a felt sense of permission to parent imperfectly and consciously. That's what we will do over the course of the 4 weeks of module one. And so let us get into week one. So, week one, we really want to focus on this truth: you are not failing, you are parenting. You are not failing, you are parenting. And let me just emphasize that if you found your way to this curriculum, that you are definitely not failing, no matter how, you've been beating yourself up about the parenting experience, no matter how, how hard you've been on yourself. If you found your way to this content, you are not failing. There's no way you could have found your way to this content unless you take parenting seriously, right? Unless you are open and receptive to new ideas about how to parent your children, right? So let's establish that as a foundation. You are not failing as a parent, no, in no shape, form, or fashion. You are parenting. Parenting is not static, it's not stuck. It is a dynamic process that grows as you grow, and the person that you are informs who you are as a parent, right? Okay, so struggle does not mean incompetence, it means something meaningful is happening. In every single relationship that we have, the opportunity to discover things, aspects, components about ourselves is very real when we are willing to and open to bring it back to self. The parenting relationship is no different, right? It is probably the most sacred opportunity to really see ourselves and how what we're operating in as it relates to worthiness or unworthiness, how it plays out and how we relate to other people, right? And so in the parenting relationship, it's important to identify and to start to kind of wrap your brain around the idea that there's a power imbalance between parents and children, right? And the more we see our children as powerless, The more we see our children as smaller people who we get to tell how to live, who we get to tell how to think, who we get to tell how they should exist in this world, the more struggles we'll have, right? Because each one of us, our children included, each one is born on purpose with a purpose, right? And in this parent child relationship, even though your child is younger, way younger than you, right? They still have a soul, and their soul is informing them of who they are and what they're here to do, right? And some of that is showing up in the parent child relationship. And so, a big part of the parenting dynamic is honoring your child as a separate entity, as a separate spiritual being having this human experience, right? They chose you as their parent from a spiritual perspective. Their soul chose your soul because their soul felt like your soul was perfect to usher them through this life's journey, through this earth school curriculum that will prepare them to become an adult who's in touch with their worthiness, who's in touch with their soul, who's here to deliver the mission of their soul, right? Their soul chose your soul because it saw that the components that you would bring to this parent child relationship would fit perfectly in your child's earth school experience to prepare them for the adulthood that allows them to serve the mission of their soul, right? I went a little bit deep there, but that's important for me to include. All right. So, along that way, I want you to consider that parenting is an activation and not a verdict, right? When you are in the space of defining who you are as a parent, please excuse the external noise that comes through from time to time. There are some gentlemen in the community doing some work, and it is so hard to predict when they will be drilling and screwing and making all this noise. So, when you have labeled the type of parent that you are, right? And you've determined that you're a bad parent or you can't get it right, or you're not admitting this to your child, you're saying this to yourself, right? You're a bad parent, you can't get it right. You're comparing yourself to other parents and you're not stacking up in your opinion. First of all, you're taking the score too soon. Parenting is a marathon and not a sprint. And parenting is one of the jobs where we don't typically apply the same level of like growth and improvement that we do in other spaces, like on our job, on our career. If we improve, if we get better, and if that's our mindset, we're up for promotions, we're up for raises, right? And that's because we're not only taking direction from our manager or supervisor, but we're also mindful of how we're showing up. And the best people on the job are the ones who have a level of independence and take some initiative, right? And so as it relates to parenting, it is a job that we're not provided a manual for. We don't have a supervisor who's giving us feedback, right? But it is still a job that we can exercise initiative in. It is still a job that we can embrace a huge level of independence. And it's a job that is dynamic, again, a marathon, not a sprint. And so we can course correct when we are a parent who is interested in making, and it's not just about making parenting a better experience. It's about recognizing again that childhood matters. And when you think about your own childhood and the things that informed your belief system, and how that belief system stayed with you until you became an adult, and it is still in many ways functioning and informing how you live your life, that really reinforces the notion, the truth actually, that childhood matters, right? And so again, if you are a parent that found your way to the worthy parent curriculum, right, you're a great parent. Even if you don't already feel like you have evidence to support that, I'm going to tell you right now that you are a great parent because you're open to discovering something new, right? It's about you living from the foundation of your worthiness and recognizing how that informs your child's ability to operate from their foundation of worthiness. Parenting intensifies subconscious programming because everything that predominantly determines how we move through life comes from our subconscious mind. Not, we are under the direction of our subconscious mind 95% of the time that we're living, right? The other 5% comes from our conscious mind. That's where our prefrontal cortex operates from, and that's where we're making conscious decisions. But 95% of it, that's the memories from childhood, the beliefs, the messaging that we experienced, the ultimately the belief system that became our operating framework for how we live our lives. That comes from our subconscious programming. That comes from our subconscious mind, right? Parenting intensifies it because, again, because most of what's in our subconscious mind comes from our childhood. When we are in the parenting role and we have this child in front of us who could be like a mini me, they are doing some things, right, that remind you of some of the experiences that you had in your childhood, some of those experiences that became beliefs that are stored in your subconscious mind. Your little that person in your life is reminding you of those things in your subconscious mind, right? And so when you are able to become an observer of what's in your subconscious mind, you are better able to recognize it when your child triggers those subconscious beliefs, that subconscious programming, right? And one of the things that we'll discuss later is, getting into the habit of taking a beat before you respond, right? Taking that nice cleansing deep breath in, holding for a couple of seconds, and then releasing. That is your reset function, right? That is a reset function that allows you just a second or two, just a few seconds to give yourself time with your child. If you're in the middle of parenting them, they're being disagreeable or whatever the case may be, taking that breath is your reset period, and that gives you a chance to just kind of do a quick reflection, right? And to understand that if they are getting a rise out of you, that is very, very likely that they are triggering something in your subconscious mind, right? And taking that breath, holding for a couple of seconds, releasing, gives you a chance to reset and gives you a chance to respond instead of reacting. Reacting is done without thinking, is done without reflecting, is done from emotion, is done from that moment of stress, that time period that's right there, upon you, right? And you don't feel like you have a chance to think, and you just react. Responding, responding includes taking that breath. Responding includes thinking about some of the things that you've discovered about parenting in that moment, and giving yourself permission to allow it to flow into how you speak, how you respond to your child in that moment, right? And that breath is a huge part of it, right? So one of the other things that we're going to do is to learn how to let go of comparisons and invisible standards. Again, parenting does not come with a manual. It is the most challenging job you will ever have, but it doesn't come with an instruction manual. It doesn't come with any guidelines for how to do it, quote unquote, properly, right? And so one of the biggest things, one of the biggest gifts that you can give to yourself and to your child is to let go of comparisons, right? Each person is here on purpose with a purpose, right? Their purpose is not like anybody else's purpose. They might do some of the same things that somebody does, but that purpose that's inside of them is uniquely their own. Their consciousness is uniquely their own. There's a thing called collective consciousness, but that's a whole nother story. But individual consciousness, your child's individual consciousness, it flows from their soul, and they are as unique as a snowflake, right? And so when you compare, we're going to talk about comparing your child to another child, even if it's to their sibling or a cousin or whatever the case may be. When you compare your child to anybody else, you are doing your child a disservice, because there are things that the Creator placed inside of your child, right? There are things that the Creator placed inside of other children, right? That are uniquely their own. And so when we get into the habit of comparing our children to someone else, we are nullifying their uniqueness. We are saying that they're the same as that other person, which is why we feel like we can compare our child to another child and wonder why they aren't stacking up like this other child, or why they're not engaging the way this other child does. Everybody has their own road to travel. Everybody has their own consciousness that they are operating from, right? Your child is unique. And the more you are able to embrace that truth about them, the less likely you will to compare them to anybody else. Because you do your child a disservice when you compare them to another sibling, to a cousin, to a classmate, to anybody else. Because there are things inside of them that are uniquely theirs to express, and they chose you as a parent because their soul believes that your soul is perfectly suited to help guide them to their purpose. And their purpose doesn't start when they become an adult. It starts in childhood. We're not just raising children. We are creating adults. Childhood matters. The other source of comparison that you need to let go of is comparing yourself to other parents. Again, we're each born on purpose with a purpose. You are the parent of these children or this child for a reason, right? And the way that you parent your children or your child, right? It has to come from this unique space within you and dynamic between you and your children, right? Between you and your child or you and your children. And to compare yourself to another parent, and to determine that you don't stack up because you're not doing something like another parent is doing, you are doing yourself a disservice. You are doing yourself a disservice. The best you can do as it relates to eliminating comparisons is to become extremely myopic. Have tunnel vision, right? Eliminate the peripheral vision to where you can see how other parents are doing it. This is not to say that you don't have a conversation, with another parent, but I think that the purpose in that case is for iron to strengthen iron, right? For you guys to respect each other's differences as parents, not to compare, but to support each other in the common areas, right? If you got a kid who's going through puberty, some of those general, milestones that all kids go through. But as far as the specifics about how you interface with your child, please ditch the comparisons. You do your child and yourself a disservice when you are able to eliminate the invisible standards, the shoulds that go along with parenting. You should do this for your child. You should do that for your child. Those shoulds are part of the invisible standards. And when you have the agency to eliminate those shoulds, you help infuse a level of freedom, a level of brilliance, a level of parenting mastery into your interactions with your child. You making it about you and your child, right? Making it about you understanding this dynamic that you got, you and your child, you and your children, you are in each other's lives for a reason, right? And the seeds that you plant in their childhood remain with them for a lifetime. Comparison means you're trying to plant somebody else's seeds into your child when you're meant to plant the seeds that come from you into your child. So the comparisons they do a disservice to you, they do a disservice to your child. In anchoring truth, that is really powerful for this week of the module is if parenting feels hard, it's not because you're doing it wrong, it's because it matters. It's easier to be a quote unquote lousy parent. And I say quote unquote because I think that every parent is doing the best they can with what they know. And there's some things that parents don't know, right? Some parents don't know some things. If parenting feels hard for you, it's because you are trying. It's because you're trying to figure it out. It's because this concept called divine discontent has shown up in the parenting realm for you. And divine discontent means that there's some misalignment, there's something that's not in harmony, there's some balance that's off, right? And so in order to get back into alignment in order to create some harmony and some balance, right? There's some things that have to be done differently. If we keep on doing what we've always done, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got, right? And they say, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same things over and over, but expecting a different result, right? Parenting requires listening, and not listening to respond, but listening to hear, believing that your child, even though they are smaller, less experienced, they are not powerless, right? They come here with their own power, and they exert that power in different ways. They don't have the maturity to exert the power the way that we exert power, but maybe having an authentic conversation at a certain level. And so a child may shut down, a child may talk back, a child may have a tantrum, a child may do things that are that are within the realm of their limited power, right? So going back to this anchoring truth, that parenting feels hard is not because you're doing it wrong, it's because it matters. If parenting feels hard for you, congratulations, because you take it seriously. If parenting feels hard for you, there's a part of you that wants to understand it better than you currently do, and you're in this curriculum for a reason. If parenting feels hard for you, right, it's because there's a part of you that knows that there is a sweet spot between you and your child, where everything doesn't have to be a struggle, everything doesn't have to be difficult, everything doesn't have to lead to, punishment and reprimand. And you know that there's a sweet spot where everything's not going to always be perfect, but there's just an easier way to interact with your child. And a part of that comes with doing away with some of the shoulds, some of the invisible barriers that say that if a child talks back, that means they're being disrespectful. What if there's a different meaning to that, right? What if when a child talks back to a parent, right? The parent can respond and help that child to see that, okay, you know what, the substance of what you said has some merit to it, but that little attitude that you said it with, we can redo that. We can both take a deep breath. You can step away for a few minutes, hang on to that content, but come back to me when you can say that in a more respectful way, right? Because what if the way that our children interact with us is a training ground for them to be able to communicate effectively as adults, right? Because some of what we call talking back from children is not them talking back, right? It's them expressing an opinion. It's them asking a question. It's them seeking clarity. It's them expressing some frustration. It's them learning to operate from agency and autonomy. But when we shut them down and we make them believe that it doesn't matter the value of the content you are conveying, right? The way you said it made me nullify it and shut it down and make it about you and you being disrespectful. And so the message that we're teaching them is that you don't have a right to say what you really think because you're powerless, because you're a child. What if parenting is the training ground for helping our children learn how to communicate effectively, right? And so here's an opportunity for us to let our kids know it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Go back to your room, practice, how you want to express that thing, and let's regroup in a little while, right? So that you can learn how to express that to me respectfully, and then we can have a conversation, right? That becomes such a beautiful, oh my God, a beautiful lesson for your child, that their voice is valued, and you just train them to learn how to express themselves effectively. That will go a long way, not only now as a child, when they're interacting with you, when they're interacting with other adults, when they're interacting with their peers, when they're interacting with their teachers. A child who knows how to express themselves, himself or herself, right? They get to learn how to do that now. And then the lesson that carries with them as an adult, it never leaves them. And they learn how to become an effective communicator as an adult. And that goes a long way. If parenting feels hard, it's not because you're doing it wrong, because it matters. Congratulations. And so we like to include some reflection prompts, right? So you get to ask yourself, and I like to encourage our subscribers to, have your own hard copy journal that you jot these down. And there's something about the actual handwriting process. You could actually, do this on a computer or on your phone, but there's something about the neurological dynamics of actually writing with a pen and paper that activates your subconscious mind in a really beautiful way, and it helps to really anchor it and integrate it, and helps you to embody it. So yeah, if at all possible, I really encourage you to do this in an actual hard copy journal, and it's a really cool way to keep track of what you're doing in this the worthy parent, and it's something that you can always reflect back on throughout your life and throughout the parenting process. So the first one is, where do I judge myself most harshly as a parent? And then the second is, whose voice do I hear when I feel like I'm not enough? Right? And I like these prompts because, again, we were people, we were individuals before we became parents, right? And so when we're able to stop during the parenting journey and reflect on who we are as people, who we are as men and women, right? And to peel back some layers and to look at who we are beneath the surface of the parenting dynamic, we can touch on some pure gold, and what we bring to ourselves, what we allow to expand within us when we tap into our worthiness, right? And we're allowing our worth consciousness to take root and to become the foundation for how we move, right? We're tapping into our authenticity. We allow our authenticity to be the foundation that we speak from, that we move from, that we act from, right? That informs how we show up as parents. So those are the two reflection prompts. And then we want to encourage you, and these will be repeated throughout the whole module of module one, the whole curriculum actually. Just encouraging you to try one practice at a time, right? Be gentle with yourself. Don't try to cram it all in at once, right? Again, we take a very deliberately slow approach with all of the curriculums for the worthy parent, the worthy relationships, the worthy self, worthy remembrance, because it's not about just kind of rushing through and being a consumer, but nothing sticks. You come through the course, feels good while you're doing it, but then you walk away and there's nothing that was integrated, and so the stressors that were still there are still there, right? And so I think it's more important, to take a deliberately slow approach that allows you to immerse yourself into the content, to allow the content to immerse itself in you, right? So I'm saying all that to say that if you just take one of these practices at a time, right, use it, and you have others that you can incorporate later when you feel like you're ready to do that, or like you want to do that. So these user-friendly tools are easy ways to help ground yourself before, during, and after the parenting experience, right? And I think that's important to kind of let that land, because some of the most profound tools that you will be able to use when you're immersed, when you're in the middle of the parenting experience, you won't gain those while you're in the middle of the parenting experience. It's what you think about how you parent before and after the parenting experiences, right? So parenting, again, is probably the most challenging job that you will ever have. Doesn't come with the manual. So it's the thought that you bring, the processing that you bring to the parenting experience when you're not parenting, that informs and strengthens the actual parenting experience while you're immersed in it, while you're in the middle of it, while you're having that exchange with your child, right? So one conscious breath before responding. I mentioned that'll help you to respond instead of react, right? Naming the internal state silently. So if you're being triggered, if you have the wherewithal in that moment to recognize, just saying silently to yourself, oh, I'm being triggered right now. Oh, I'm being activated right now. Oh, I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed right now, right? And then you give yourself a chance after that exchange with your child. Hopefully, you incorporated a deep breath, and you have a chance later to go and unpack what the trigger was, what the overwhelm was. You have a chance to unpack it, right? And one of this isn't a part of the curriculum, but it's coming up for me right now, so I want to share it. One of the most powerful things you will ever do as a parent is to apologize to your child. Because when the internal state, when you're able to identify the internal state in the moment, right? And you recognize that you were triggered, you recognize that you were being overwhelmed in that moment, and you reacted instead of responding, and you said something that hurt their feelings, or you said something to shut them down, or you said something that triggered some belief in unworthiness, right? When you're processing after the fact and you can own that, oh damn, oh my goodness, okay, I think that what I said and how I said it, that cut deep. If you can go back and apologize to your child and explain, listen, when you said blah 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 blah, the way you said it reminded me of something that happened to me when I was a kid, and it took me back there, and I got into my feelings, and I said some things that I really didn't mean to say, but it came from this hurt space within me, and I really didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Please forgive me. I apologize. Do you understand what you teach your child? First of all, you help them to feel seen, heard, and loved, right? You just, in that moment of apologizing, of asking for forgiveness, you just taught them a master class in how to interact in a loving relationship. That we are all human, we all make mistakes, and we care enough and respect each other enough to come back and say, I was wrong. Please forgive me. You just taught your child a master class. Because guess what? Guess who your child will feel more inclined to come to when they've done something wrong? Somebody who can admit when they are wrong. Oh, wow. All of that just came up. And I'm so glad I shared it. Really, really, really important. Really, really important. I have 3 adult children, and I have apologized for stuff that I thought I did, maybe perhaps wrong when they were younger, and I say it like that, maybe perhaps did, because I try to get those jokers to tell me when, if they can remember some of the things that I did when they were younger that made them feel some kind of way. Let me know so we can discuss it, and I can give it some context, and I can apologize and ask for your forgiveness. And this isn't to say that I'm calling myself this great parent who never made mistakes, but they haven't come to me with anything yet. So I feel kind of good about that. But the door is always open, and I always remind them, always. Um, Okay, so that's enough on that one. Placing a hand on the heart during stress, right? Because chances are when you are in a stressful situation, you are coming from your head and not your heart. You are overthinking, you are being critical of yourself or your child. You are doing this comparison thing. You're doing something with your mind that has you feeling more stressed than not, right? And when you place a hand on your heart and that reminds you to engage your heart, right? It's just a gentle reminder that this is a loving relationship. It might feel, like things are kind of awry right now, that we're not on the same page. That doesn't mean we can't get back on the same page, or at least be in the same book, right? Coming from the heart reminds you that this is a foundation of love that we're operating from, right? And then the last, practicing repair. Again, noticing when you get overwhelmed, noticing when you get triggered, and being able to bring that into the relationship. Oh my God, what a gift! What a gift! What a gift! One of the things that's really fascinating to me involves parents who can admit to themselves and can admit to their peers, maybe to their siblings or their friends or whatever, that they were wrong about something in the parenting realm, but they will never, ever, ever admit it to their child, right? There's some pride there, there's some ego there, maybe there's some perception that to admit being wrong about something would, stoke some shame or guilt, right? um but it's one of the most powerful things that you can do with a kid. I got overwhelmed, let's try again. Right, you are building a strong relationship with with this younger person in your life. You are building a strong you are setting the foundation for a relationship that will continue to get better with time. You are planting seeds of worthiness in your child. You are telling your child that they are important. You are telling your child that you believe that you are important, that you are worthy, right? And when you're operating from your own worthiness, you are stoking your child's worthiness. Oh my God, I love this stuff. Okay, so some sanctuary support tools that we have available really throughout the entire sanctuary, but not but and throughout each pillar, throughout the worthy self, throughout the worthy parent, throughout worthy relationships, we include this breath work and guided meditations that are specific to those different pillars. So just wanted to remind you that we really believe that breath work is so super important, because when we're stressed, we're breathing because we're alive, but we're not breathing deeply. We're not breathing in a way that lets our nervous system know that we're safe, to let our nervous system know that we can relax and be in the moment without any threat of anything horrible happening, right? So breath work returns us to ourselves. Breath work returns us to our awareness and our connection to our worthiness. And when we incorporate breath work into the parenting dynamic, right? We are modeling to our children how to self regulate. We are modeling to our children how to bring ourselves back to the foundation of our lives. That's our innate worth. We were born worthy. Everybody's born worthy. We're worthy right now. We'll always be worthy. And that breath brings us back to that reality, right? And then we have guided meditations throughout that help you to, the guided meditations are for you. They are for you. In the worthy self, I talk about how that is really, really important, because our relationship with ourself is the most important relationship that we have, because not only does it provide a sense of safety, a sense of security, agency, autonomy within ourselves, a sense of freedom, it helps to regulate our own nervous system, right? But when we are operating from a foundation of worthiness with ourselves, not only are we providing ourselves like the most beautiful gift in the world, but the relationship with ourself, it informs every other relationship that we have. Certainly the parenting relationship, right? And so the guided meditations are to help restore yourself, to the truth of you, the capital self, the capital S self, right? The self that is a spiritual being having this human experience, right? And so though we have guided meditations available to you, um yeah, throughout the sanctuary, throughout the worthiness sanctuary, and in each one of the pillars, definitely in the worthy parent. So that is what we have for module one. I look forward to, well, week one of module one. I look forward to you connecting with me in week two of module one, where we'll go even deeper. We will go even deeper into this whole being fully present with your kid is way more effective than trying to be a perfect parent, way more effective than um, any limited box that you put yourself in as a parent, right? This is about breathing into this role, breathing into this experience. And one of the last things I'll say is that when you become more intentional about being fully present for your child, you're listening, you're actively listening, you're giving them, the right body language, just your presence there with them, it creates more joy in the household. It creates more joy in the parent-child relationship. It helps to create a better sense of harmony in the child, in the parent-child relationship, in the family dynamics, right? And everybody benefits from that. Your stress level goes down, your child's stress level goes down. The family can enjoy each other more. The family can enjoy each other more. Will your family still have challenges? Absolutely. Will you still meet with some problems? Absolutely. But even the way you respond to the challenges and the problems can come from a different perspective that is not as difficult, not as challenging, not as stressful as it was before you became more intentional about being fully present. All right, so I'm keeping you guys going into 41 minutes, and I'm not going to even tell you how long I was. This was meant to be, but thank you for sticking with me. I will see you for week 2 of module 1 in the Worthy Parent. Thank you. Peace.